Hey guys, welcome back to Assets Under Management. I'm your host, Misha, and
Gabriel Craft here.
it is an exciting moment for me. So I got my Papa Bear shirt on. I just got a baby girl as of a week. It's actually been a week and a half. So we got the final addition, final addition to the family. So this is a apropos topic that we're about to discuss. But Gabe, before we get started, how are you doing?
Life's good. Just been out here trying to get the right balance between acquiring deals, checking in with investors, and getting our deal that we acquired in February off the ground. So it's been eventful. It's going to be a good summer,
Oh
but
yeah.
we got one more new teammate to start to invest in, and hopefully we can teach her to be good at investor relations, so she can start taking some of these calls.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and it was good to go back because I haven't been at that I mean, usually I'm there every other day, and to spend a week away and seeing the progress. It's cool to like when you step back and then you go back in, you can see things that otherwise you wouldn't see. So I'm really excited, and we got to share with the group at some point, just kind of status update on what we've done over the last couple of months because I know we've made a lot of huge strides and progress that I think people would like to see.
Well, we spent a lot of money, $1.6 million in 9 months. It's been quite the construction site. So, I think it does allow you some perspective when you step away and you come back to it, and you're like, ah, okay, all right, we did something here. It's starting to come alive.
I feel like
So
on that topic, if I gave myself or if I gave my wife $1.6 million to spend in 9 months, I think she could do it. I think she'd find
mine,
it.
Robo, she couldn't do it. Mine couldn't do it. She's entirely. I would have
Um,
$1.59 million sitting in my bank account if I had 1.6 for her to spend. It
that's
would be a
beautiful.
long road, and it's beautiful. I need it. Now, if you gave me $1.6 million to spend, it would be very simple, right? I
Couple
mean,
private jets.
yeah, a couple. I just no, not. Are you talking about to spend? Spend? You know me. I'd probably be like, all right, cool. That's only 1.6. We need to come up with another 9.4 so we can put 11 million in equity in something and go buy a big apartment complex.
There you go. There you go. Well, today's an exciting conversation for us because I think it's. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, a long. We've got around this topic for a while, but I think it really is the most important thing is getting on the same page with your significant other when it comes to those big investment decisions and the financial planning. Before we kind of dive into some details about how to do that, or specifically how you and I do that in our respective worlds, talk me through why do you think this is the most one of the most important topics that we'll discuss.
Well, you know, getting your stuff together financially is about ensuring that you maximize your time here on planet Earth. And if you have somebody that you're going to spend all that time with, you need to come up with some sort of alignment between the two of you. There's no way to enjoy that time when people are sort of not able to have honest conversations about money. It just ends up being one of the most destructive things in any kind of relationship. Partnerships that aren't honest about or clear about the money, and significant other relationships where you're not clear about money. In fact, I think it is one of the top reasons that leads to sort of people not being happy with one another, whether they stick together or not. I think that at the bottom of it is being able to be honest about something that's really hard to have a conversation with other
Yeah.
people about, which is
Yeah.
money, is critical. And so, as much as we would all love to just go, oh no, my significant other just trusts me, it's all good. What I've really enjoyed about watching you, Misha, is the way that you navigate the space. You are the numbers guy, you are the money guy, and your significant other, your lovely wife, has clearly got a lot of confidence in where you're going because she's smart. She picked a Michael Jordan, and she knows to put Michael Jordan on the court when it comes to making money, and he will consistently put up points every night. But I think that it's been cool to see how you've taken those strides and run with them, but also like built into your life some very practical ways in which you ensure that you're at least setting the right strategy together. So I'll let you kind of dive into your secret sauce and your magic. I'm taking notes on what you do because I think it is important. I don't mean to overplay it. I'm sure it's different every time you do it, but I had never thought to think through of like taking, the relationship and treating it like you would your board of directors. And so I think that's some of the
Oh,
things that you've kind of created is some kind
yeah.
of consistent approach to uh, retreating together and thinking through finances. And then, what I'll say is that's funny is that since I've seen you sort of put that concept into play and I'm sort of going, oh, well, let me see how this works out. This seems like it's interesting. Let me pick Misha's brains a little more. It actually came up in another wealth circle that I've been around. The white coat investor, Jim Dolly, runs a program. And in his program, one of his main speakers was delivering a book and gave everybody a copy of the book. And it was all about, it was a lot more to do with children than,
Mm.
than the significant other and spouse. But within getting ready to kind of take your children game to the next level of how you would rear your children and engage your children and spend 18 wonderful summers with your children, which is the concept behind the book. He
Ooh, I
had
love
also the whole concept of a retreat with your spouse and significant other and putting time aside to have these conversations about money and other things. So I thought that was cool. So
it. Yeah,
whatever you
I love
do,
it.
seem like you've been borrowing from the right people or you've been creating the right thing if you're creating it yourself. With that, I think the topic today is going to be about how do you approach investing with keeping in mind your significant other and the other people that are part of your decision making process. Because every time you invest in these deals, you're investing six digits, oftentimes, or at least high five digits.
Yeah.
So it's a really important thing to be on the same page about the risks you're taking because you will have ups and you will have downs. And if everybody's not on the same page, it can be very problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the first thing that always strikes in my mind is really realizing, not just on a personal level and emotional level, but from a financial level, your significant other is your biggest investment, right? So if someone that's half of your capital right there. And you got to treat it with that level of care and responsibility, right? So if my focus is 100% on real estate and it's not on my number one investment, then that's a problem, right? So realizing that and putting that same care. I mean, obviously you should as a significant other as your partner, but they're your partner, but they're also your business partner. So keeping that in mind in the decisions you make and realizing if I'm spending too much time, which I know Gabe, you and I talk about all the time, but how am I spending my time? How am I spending my time? If I'm spending too much time away and it's reducing the quality of life for my wife and significant other, I mean that's a huge potential detriment because if something were to happen, that's half of your capital stack. Not I don't want to think about it in terms of that terms. My relationship is much more important than a capital stack, but it's also just realizing that when I'm thinking it from a financial lens, then I realize that she is the top priority, as special as she is in every other way from a financial perspective as well. She is the top priority. So with that in mind, we do a retreat every year. So right after the holidays, um, so my birthday is like January 12th. Between New Year's and my birthday, we do a cabin retreat. We'll usually go to do a getaway cabin for about 3 or 4 days. And we'll do a couple of things there. One, just spend quality time together, which is always special, amazing, especially now that we have 3 kids. But we also will do vision boards where we map out kind of visually what we want to accomplish, what we want to experience, what we want to be feeling. And then we'll sit down and we'll take out a calendar. We'll talk about, okay, what do we want to accomplish this year quarterly? What trips are we going to take? Who are we going to spend time visiting? Where are the places that we want to go? Are there specific concerts that we want to see? Is there specific other things that we want to do? And we'll map those out on our calendar before the year starts. And that's been really special for us to be able to do because we start the year off really have an idea of what works for both of us. And then it's not just about kind of things. It's also about, how we want to be feeling, right? My wife just had her third baby. So it was really important for us. Like, how do we make that experience enjoyable, special, for her. What are her needs? What can we do to make that really special? What can we make that feel like a relaxing moment? And we really try to plan that out. So that's kind of like on a year-long basis. But I like to separate my years into quarters. So every 3 months or so, we'll have our own mini trip and own mini retreat. So, sometimes we don't have all the goals mapped up. We might have all our goals for 3 months. We'll assess, hey, what went well, what didn't for those 3 months, and then we'll set them again. Part of that for us was this round was, my wife saying, hey, like I really want a new house. Like that's really important to me. And that's something like talking about money, I'm just pushing back. We don't need it. We got a good house, XYZ. But really sitting down and listening, realizing, hey, this is something that's important to her. Let's try to figure out how to make that happen. And then within, maybe 3 days of like really sitting down and having that conversation, we're under contract on a house, and within a month we're moved into a new house. So that doesn't happen without us being really on the same page. So that's kind of the macro picture that we do. So we have two bank accounts. One is I would call it a joint bank account. So it's like my stuff and her stuff. But she also has her own account. So if there's stuff that like she wants to spend on whatever she wants to spend on, that's fine too. And it doesn't kind of sift through our stuff. But if it's in our account, that's something that I will kind of check in on and say, hey, what do we spend on this? Or what are we doing here? Where can we be efficient? How can we do this better? It's never a negative. It's for both of us. But we always try to analyze the money that's in our account, making sure that we're maximizing what's going there. Obviously, when you talk about this, building financial wealth, you always got those four levers. So one is, increasing your investment return, decreasing or increasing your savings. So that's kind of the lever that I try to focus on in our family. And we just try to, do the best we can on that front. But I don't want to ramble too much. Those are things that work really well for us. In a nutshell, those three things. One is just like always remembering that she is, the most important investment in my life. And not only that, but she's led me to the most important financial investments too. So like I would have never bought houses if, personally, like I was like, I live in a shoebox, but she's like, no, I need this house. But those led to, great investments for us just personally, because we bought right before the pandemic, prices essentially doubled. So we had a lot more capital to work with, which if it was up to me, would have never happened. But that's been a blessing to have her on our team. And then the last thing is just kind of making sure we're talking through and planning out everything together. Um, and for the most part, we share very similar sentiments and values on things. But both of us have veto power to say, hey, no, this doesn't work for me. Hey, this does, so that we can really be on the same page before the year even starts.
So I'm gonna play the role of the question asker here, because I want to get some more specifics. Okay, yeah. So every 3 months or so you've got an annual planning session, and then in addition to that, every 3 months or so you get away for a weekend. On these weekends, are kids allowed to come, or is this you put the kids with the grandparents or something like that?
Usually the kids do come. So the only time that they don't is for that single retreat that we do annually.
Okay, so you do an annual retreat, no kids. The other times we're going to do some getting away here with the intention of getting on the same page, both financially and just sort of mentally. But we can bring the kiddos around. Tell me what a weekend looks like. Give me a Thursday through Thursday through Sunday, I should say, or Friday through Sunday. Give me the breakdown on what one of these little mini retreats look like. How done? How much play is being done?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination. So it depends on where we're at. So this year, we're tired. We just got through the holidays. My wife's pregnant. We're going on this trip. So we started by just going to the grocery store. So getting our supplies, so our s'mores, snacks.
Where did you go?
Huh? For this, I think we went to either Walmart or Kroger. So something real simple.
Okay.
And then we'll grab our magazines. So like 3 or 4 magazines, so that we have what we need for our vision board. And then we usually then we'll kind of drive. So the getaway that we go to is in LaRue, Texas. It's about like it's near Tyler area, so about an hour and a half drive from Dallas.
What's in
We'll
LaRue?
usually,
What's in LaRue?
just the getaway. That's just where the cabins are.
Airbnb cabin or a
It's
hotel?
like it's like glamping. So it's like a really like nice mini cabin is the way I
Okay.
would describe it.
All right.
Yeah. But we've done it so many times that we get like these huge discounts to be there. So, which I love. But no, it's great because they have like, they have a lot of windows. They have one really big bed, a really small kitchen. It's like it looks like a container, like a really nice container, and then they got like kind of the fire and everything outside. Um, so yeah, we'll make the drive up. We'll usually that, and it's usually a lot of it is dead time too. So we'll like listen to. Usually we'll listen to like Crime Junkie, like some murder mysteries. That look at it, or not like those murder podcasts.
Get some bonding
Um,
time together. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then when we get there, my wife and I are very different. So like in terms of like she's very hands on. She's very crafty. She's very like good with like her motor skills. I'm not good with my motor skills. I'm very like cerebral. So usually when we get there, we'll just kind of chill. I'll be reading, some finance books or whatever. She'll be either like reading on her Kindle or she'll be like starting to actually map out the vision board. Um, we'll take a second to make dinner. So we'll either make that outside, like on the in the fire, or we'll make it like in the mini kitchen. Um, and then we'll start to talk through stuff. Hey, what went well this year? What we were really proud of. What can we do to make this year, the best year yet? And sometimes we have things that we thought through. Sometimes we don't, right? So like part of Thinking Fast and Slow from Daniel Kahneman is that some things like come to you right away. Some things you got to like be doing something else, and then it will pop into your mind. So we'll start the at least we'll have that initial conversation. She might draw and do her artsy thing. I'll start reading my books, and then if there as things come up, we'll start to write it down. So I'll start to write down, hey, these are my goals. These are what I'm thinking, and then we'll reconvene at multiple moments where we start to talk through it. And then at the what will happen that first night is pretty lazy. Like we're just kind of chilling, just relaxing. We don't have kids, so you can just kind of lay back. But then you're starting to think about it. We already know, this is the time where we're planning. So even though if we're not like actively like, oh, I'm like writing down this journal and being really intense, our brains are already set up for that. So it just starts to kind of happen naturally. So we start to journal and write down thoughts, ideas, plans. There's a really nice hiking, walking trail. So the next morning we'll wake up, make breakfast, and just kind of go for a walk and start things will start to come through. Like as we're walking, hey, this is what I think, would be cool this year. Or, what do you think about this? Or we can do this at this point. And then over time, it just kind of percolates through. And then I'll usually bring out a calendar as we've kind of journaled out our different thoughts. I'll just say, hey, you want to see the Hosier concert. I'm seeing it up here. It's on this date. Should we write it in? Yeah, sounds good. Right. I know we want to see the siblings. It's going to be tight during Memorial Day. How about we do July 4th weekend? Yep, sounds good. We'll pencil it in. And then by the time we kind of, and this doesn't take necessarily that long, kind of talk it through, we have it all mapped out and we have kind of a game plan. And from there, we're just good to go. We got to start to reach out to people saying, hey, we got this going on. We got this. This is what we're thinking. I like, for me personally, which I haven't done yet, or not yet, but I fell off once the baby comes. So I'll come back on. I like to also schedule a race every quarter. So
Okay.
that's kind of how I think through the year as well. Is like, all right, every 3 to 4 months, that's my chance to run a race, reflect, and kind of jump back in. So we already scheduled to do a race next January in Florida at Disney. It's the Disney Marathon, but that's like, because we got enough time, we planned it out. Okay, well, we can have family there, we can have friends there, we can kind of make that a much longer trip where we actually even have, our annual meeting. And there's enough time because we've thought about it so far ahead of time. People don't have those plans yet, so we can start to push our plans onto them.
Plus, it's your
So
birthday.
that's, yeah, it's my birthday too. So that's kind of a sample of what it looks like. A lot of it is pretty organic. It's not like a super stressful process. It's most like I would say most of the time we're relaxing. We're watching shows, watching Netflix, like just kind of really relaxing and getting a good night's sleep, which we don't get as often anymore. But it's also really quality time that we just get to spend together, right? So it's like having that time set apart where there isn't any other distractions. It's just kind of us being able to hang out and be together, which is really, really special. Our very first date was a camping trip. So it kind of brings that to of before anything else, we went camping and we went for a walk and we kind of talked through stuff. So um, that's just been us. It's worked really well for us. And I think the other thing that works really well for us is we make really good decisions when we walk together. So like her and I, when we're like thinking through a difficult problem, we'll just go for a walk and kind of talk it through together. Pros and cons. What are we thinking? What is and then at the end, we usually kind of have a sense of what feels right to us, and then it will just kind of move forward. So I've seen that work much better for us than kind of like sitting down or trying to like get out on paper a pros and cons list. Like literally just walking it out and talking it through in a really nice setting. Really where it's a nice environment. Works well for us in terms of coming to that consensus.
All right. So if you're listening out there, I hope you're taking notes because, obviously we all want to be successful financially, but if you don't have anybody to enjoy it with, it's going to be quite a problem. And obviously, I know there's a lot of listeners who maybe aren't in the same marriage
Yeah,
position that
preaching
me
to the
and
choir.
Gage are. But the point is that for those of you who do have significant others to consider in your journey, got to bring them along. And one good way to do that is by regularly checking in. It doesn't mean you have to have a every 3 months on the dot retreat, but it is certainly a good idea to have a regular check-in, however you need to, so that y'all can get on the same page. And I think that my wife and I have a slightly more chaotic and less structured approach, but it works. We do chat through when we're doing the big decisions for the year on what we want to accomplish, when we want to travel, and what we're doing this for. And I think those are kind of the big three, so that you don't really disrupt the flow of your life as you pursue these new things, these very challenging goals. And I think one of the beautiful things about what we do, apartment investing, is that it's pretty easy to understand. And so now that my wife is on board, for my good times and bad, up deals and down deals, I actually feel like she's very supportive now that she knows what's up, now that she knows what's going on. And so whenever I need her to, she can step in and support me. Usually just mentally, right? It's usually
Yeah.
not supporting me with any action that needs to take place. And yeah, I really appreciated you sharing your methodology here. Misha, I don't know if there's any other final tips you might have for folks when it comes to sort of establishing that level of understanding with somebody that's maybe not taking a direct role in the investing, but needs to be well informed of not only what you're doing, but also why you're doing it.
I think just in general, so I know we've talked about this on an earlier podcast, but it's something that's forgotten a lot in investing and in our business that it is whatever it is, but specifically in real estate, it is a relationship business. Um, it just is. So you can't just be like a super good numbers person and not know how to relate and connect to a vendor or relate or connect to a staff member or relate and connect to an investor. Um, if you can't do that, you just can't be successful in this business. And that's the same thing with the same approach with our spouses or significant others or friends. Like you have to take the time to really build that relationship and connect with them. It can't just be analytical. This is the numbers. This is what makes sense. Let's go on. Right. It really has to be taking the time to listen, understand where they're coming from, understand what their needs are. And when you're really listening and understanding, um, hopefully you'll be able to have a genuine conversation to get to where you want to get to. But in this business where I see a lot of people falter is like, oh, well, I ran the numbers, I ran the comps. It's going to be this return and I'm going to get this, out of it. And I'm going to pay this person this amount. And you're not taking the time to really learn and understand people. No one's going to want to work with you. Those, especially in our business, which Gabe, I know you see it all the time. Like people just want to be respected. They want to be appreciated. They want to be heard. They want to know that you care about them genuinely as a person. And if they see that you just see them as a number, it's not going to work. And it's the same thing in your, in any relationship, right? People know when you care versus you're just, trying to, you just have a number in mind. So that's kind of my takeaway. It's not really about, well, it's just about relationships in general, not any, to a specific significant other, but there is place for you in this business to lead with the head and the heart, not just one or the other. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that subject.
Well, I love it. No, that's super helpful. And before we sign off, I just also want to remind people to go back and listen to that episode about values, because I think they tie in really well here. When we chatted about values, we did say one activity that has worked for the both of us. Again, it doesn't mean you got to follow it or anything, but as making sure that you go through that values exercise and then coordinating your values with a significant other, if you have one, to ensure that if at all possible, y'all can come up with a family set of values that can be your North Star for making some of these decisions. Because it's not always going to be easy. And, Misha made it sound like he disappears every now and again. It comes back with this really simple set of things. But I know how challenging it was for you to have to weigh, the decision to get a new house. You loved your old house. It was not something you to sell. I watched you when you were getting your last things from your attic. And, it was a labor of love that you got her this beautiful new home. You'll fall in love with it, and it'll be back to normal. But to make those decisions, you had a North Star that was really clear. That was like, this is definitely got the priority, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to require crazy amount of effort beyond just the financial piece and investment. And you did it because you had that muscle that you built over time, and you knew that there was no crazy ideas allowed at these retreats. You had both kind of had a mutual respect that if it's getting brought up around the fireside, it's really truly important. It's not priority in the sense of like how everybody will give you 100 priorities and it's just somewhere on the list and they're not really foggy or not really willing to make the commitment to it. It was like, these are going to be the top 2 or 3 things that we need to do in this next stretch of time. And it was just cool because you had that muscle built that when the really hard stuff came up, you knew you had to make a change because, it was all in fair play, right? All those things that you had asked her to sacrifice on and do, she had done, and you guys just had this mutual respect. So it was cool to see. And I know that it's definitely something that I'll be incorporating some shape or form, really getting that time away. Now that I know that you're not, sort of unfairly parking the kids with the grandparents, that you're making no excuses, that you've got 2 similarly aged kids to me, I think I'm going to attempt to do something similar here, even if it's not with the regular cadence that you and your wife have. I like that idea of getting away and having a serious discussion on a regular basis about reprioritizing.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I think I mentioned the story already, but like my wife already knew what house she wanted in like October. But yeah, but it did. Yeah, she had to wait for the right window for me to be even open to that conversation, and it was a small window of time, um, but I'm glad that she did. As always, sometimes I'm pushing and screaming, but she almost always makes the right decision. I think, which is maybe a separate note, but like I understand, 99% of the time she's right. The 1% of the time where I'm right, I'm very loud about it because,
yeah.
I don't.
It's coming if she's saying something and not just like, I don't care. Then it's serious. Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I don't want to put you on too long. So, Gabe, what do we got on deck coming up for
so I just wanted to share that we have a really interesting topic coming up in the next episode of the podcast. Misha and I have invited a tax specialist to come on and share some case studies and examples of ways that sort of investors, particularly in multifamily real estate, can think about lightening their tax burden and kind of put some more money back in their pocket every year. So, we're going to introduce a couple concepts like bonus depreciation and passive losses and other strategies that should be top of mind, more advanced tax strategies that we'll try to cover off on with Misha's CPA. So looking forward to that. Very excited to talk about that. And then a little bit after that conversation, we're going to kind of hone in and get specific about the Texas market and talk a little bit about what we're seeing here in 2024, midway through the year, what's happening. Me and Misha have underwritten 40 deals in the last 4 weeks. We're touring a couple this week. And it's because we see something special happening here in Texas. So we'll just sort of share some of the things we see related to interest rates and rents and demographic changes that are impacting the Texas market. And then the next three that are going to round out the season are all going to be guests. We want to invite some people that are at the beginning part of their journey from being knowing nothing about real estate to sort of on their beginning steps, first parts of their path for financial freedom. And then get some people that have some experience and talked about some people that kind of have gotten it down midway through the path or really actually gotten this thing on autopilot and have started to invest a ton of money into the space. So we're going to be looking forward to some guests after we talk about the state of Texas and the market that we see here and taxes.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabe. And thank you, listeners. We look forward to connecting with you all very soon.